Governance is the art of steering a ship while the engines overheat, the cargo shifts, and a storm batters the hull. A modern nation handles global market volatility, extreme weather, and complex social shifts simultaneously. You cannot treat these as isolated leaks. A country is a multi-tiered machine, where pressure in one system demands an immediate, calibrated response in another. National resilience depends on distinct interventions in the economy, environment, and social institutions, all operating together to keep the state's foundation stable. The economic engine is often the first to feel the strain of global events. When military tensions in West Asia drive up crude oil prices, the shockwaves hit domestic supply lines immediately. High international prices tempt private refiners to export their fuel for maximum profit. If left unchecked, this leaves the domestic market facing a severe shortage, while production infrastructure sits right in their backyard. To counter this, the Ministry of Finance employs a windfall tax, a mechanical intervention designed to prioritize local stability over private export gains. The intervention is drastic. New notifications hiked export duties on diesel to 55 rupees and 50 paise per liter and increased the levy on aviation turbine fuel to 42 rupees. This tax makes exporting so expensive that it becomes more viable to sell locally. It forces fuel back into the domestic market, protecting state-run companies and ensuring that citizens don't bear the full weight of international price volatility. Resilience in a globalized world requires these aggressive, targeted market interventions to insulate the local population from foreign conflict. Environmental defense requires a shift from reacting to disasters to predicting them. For states like Odisha, the threat is an intensifying cycle of extreme heat waves. The strategy is now codified into heat action plans. These aren't just lists of suggestions, they are proactive blueprints that define how a district manages risk before the first heat alert is even issued. Central to this is the SATARK app. Developed with the Regional Integrated Multi-Hazard Early Warning System, it uses data from the India Meteorological Department to trigger automated alerts at the block level. These alerts activate specific standard operating procedures. Once a threshold is hit, outdoor labor is mandatorily halted between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. to protect the most vulnerable workers. The defense extends to infrastructure. Public transit is rescheduled, and new building codes mandate cool roofs and albeal paint to lower the internal temperature of urban centers. Environmental resilience is no longer defined by the speed of the rescue, but rather by the precision of the automated systems built to prevent the casualty in the first place. A resilient state must also address the internal fractures that prevent fair representation. If a society's educational leadership excludes marginalized voices, the institutional foundation weakens. Historically, university hiring happened department by department. Because reservation quotas for groups like scheduled tribes or scheduled castes are percentages, applying them to single vacancies often resulted in a fraction that was mathematically rounded down to zero. The Teacher Cadre Act of 2026 resolves this with a single unit framework. It treats the entire university as a unified hiring pool, rather than a collection of isolated departments. Calculating quotas across the whole university pool ensures that reservation thresholds for SC, ST, and SEBC candidates are actually met, mathematically guaranteeing the representation required by law. Ensuring social equity requires dismantling the hidden mathematical barriers that prevent marginalized groups from entering academic leadership. Legislative frameworks, economic firewalls, and data-driven alerts provide the skeleton of a state, but the cultural elements provide its pulse. The recent passing of the 92-year-old legendary playback singer Asha Bhosle marks more than the death of an icon. It signifies the end of a cultural era. She was cremated with full state honors. Massive crowds gathered at Shivaji Park, a testament to the scale of national mourning for a voice that defined the country's musical history for 80 years. Bhosle's career provided the emotional soundtrack for the very people living through the transitions we've discussed, from the push for social equity to the management of global crises. Her work was the connective tissue remaining constant while the country's legal and physical architecture evolved. A nation's resilience relies on the technical precision of its laws and markets to safeguard the lives of its people, but the preservation of a shared cultural identity gives those lives their collective purpose.